Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to welcome you to our newest installment of the Wyoming Airports Coalition Lunch and Learn series. My name is Kyle Butterfield. I'm privileged to be on the board of the Wyoming Airports Coalition and also the opportunity to be on the Education Committee. Today, we're very blessed and pleased and honored and privileged to have our new leadership with the Airports District Office in Denver and also WYDOT Aeronautics with us today, and we'll have opportunity to get to know them better and see the many ways that they support us across the whole state of Wyoming. As an aside, I can't tell you how lucky we are to have a supportive ADO and also a supportive team at WYDOT Aeronautics. I personally have seen through the years their investment in our success at our airport, but also through the state. So their participation in today's Lunch and Learn, I think, just further cements that commitment that they have to each of our communities, each of our airports, and very grateful for it. So I'll just say a few other things as far as housekeeping, and then we'll go ahead and kick it off to our first presenter. But again, welcome. And thank you so much for being a part of the Wyoming Airports Coalition and taking part of our Lunch and Learn series. By way of housekeeping, we will have opportunity to ask questions of our presenters, and just know that you'll be able to utilize the Q&A application of the webinar throughout, and I'll be monitoring that to ensure that anybody's question gets heard and answered. And then I believe you'll have opportunity to participate in the chat function. If not, please just utilize the Q&A function, and we'll make sure that you have your voice heard. If you prefer to come on screen and ask a question in person, I can let you into the webinar as well, and you can have that privilege. So with that out of the way, again, welcome. Very, very privileged to have Jesse Lyman with us, who is the new Airports District Office Manager. A lot of us have had opportunity to work with Jesse through the years and can speak to his professionalism, his investment, and quite frankly, his intelligence in the airport and air service realm. He'll provide his own introduction as he gets an opportunity to start, but I do want to state that through the years, I've very much valued my interactions with him and have always felt that he cares for the airports that he's representing and working for, and definitely strives for their success. We also have Sean Burke with us today, who is the new administrator for WYDOT Aeronautics. Sean has a long history with WYDOT Aeronautics, but he's also worked in both the private and public sector. Previously, I know he's worked with an airline. He's also been the air service coordinator and manager with WYDOT Aeronautics. He's worked with Denver Airport and also in the consulting realm, and we're very, very pleased to have him back in the state and excited to see him take the helm of WYDOT Aeronautics. So with that brief introduction, I definitely welcome Jesse to come forward, and look forward to his introduction and also the presentation that he has for you today.
All right. Hey, good afternoon, Kyle. Can you hear me?
We've got you, Jesse. Thank you
No.
so much for being here.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you and appreciate the kind words. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Like Kyle said, I'm Jesse Lyman, new manager of the Denver Airports District Office. Been here about 16 years. Started out as a project manager, actually, in fact, doing projects in Wyoming, like Kyle mentioned. Crossed paths with Kyle multiple times, working up at Riverton. Worked there in Wyoming for about 7.5 years before I went and worked on Utah airports for about another 5 years. And then after that, in about 2023, I moved up and became the assistant manager of our office. And then most recently, in December, with John Bauer's departure to a headquarters role, I took on the manager role. So excited to be here, excited for the new role, and to get to reintroduce myself to you all in Wyoming and in my new capacity. So with that, try not to do a death by PowerPoint here, but wanted to just share a few slides with you all, and kind of give you some of my thoughts or some high level things of what I'm seeing down the pike for our office, and for you all as well. And first, I should just ask Kyle, can you just verify that you can see my slides?
Yeah, Jesse, sorry for the delay in joining in. I can see your shared screen. It looks great. We can hear you, and I think we're good to go.
All right, great. Thank you. All right. So yeah, first, just a few staffing updates. Since Rebecca last talked to you all up at the WAC last September, we've hired three new civil engineers slash project managers, all hired in January of this year. We have Cameron Bryant, Ryan Reyes, and Tolu Odiemi. Again, they're all civil engineers, brand new to aviation in the field. So we're getting them trained up as quick as we can. And again, I'm jumping in on projects. And so with that, we've had a little bit of change with some of our airport contacts for a couple of reasons. One, the most obvious with the tragic loss of Christy back in January. We now have John Sweeney stepping into the planner role for our Wyoming airports again. So for those of you that have worked in Wyoming for a while, John was the Wyoming planner up until about 2019, 2020. And so he's back doing that role for Wyoming. We still have Rebecca in the state handling the Western Wyoming airports as well as our passenger facility charges. Luis Duarte is handling the Eastern Wyoming airports. And then again, one of our newer project managers, Cameron Bryant, we have him handling four airports kind of in the southwest quadrant of the state. And then just kind of rounding out our team, again, some people you know, some you don't. We have two environmental protection specialists that handle the full gamut of environmental needs. That's Kansas Kroll and Clayton Knudsen. They just kind of tag team all of our projects. So if you haven't already, you'll probably be hearing from Clayton soon on your project. And then lastly, we have Kevin Keith. He is a planner by trade, works on our Colorado airports, but he also handles our compliance for all three states. So again, if you have any compliance needs, feel free to reach out to your project manager, or again, you can contact Kevin as well. So just wanted to briefly overview where we're at with kind of our grant program and kind of give you guys some indication on kind of where it's headed and what we're looking at for the rest of the year. So I just wanted to throw up a few slides really quick showing what our grant output has looked like over the last few years. Again, starting in 2019, as I'll put our kind of our last normal year before COVID and the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act came into play. And I should state too, all these numbers, especially for the COVID years, are without the COVID grants included. These are just purely airport improvement program grants, the AIG grants, supplemental discretionary, and so forth. So, but as you can see, obviously with supplemental discretionary coming into play, and then in 2023, when we really ramped up funding for our AIG grants, we're outputting quite a bit of money. These numbers are all in the millions of dollars. So in 2019, we granted about $181 million. This year in 2025, we're looking at approximately $450 million. And so what does that mean for us just total grant wise and workload? So again, here just showing number of grants we issued, again, without the COVID grants included. As you can see, it's been a pretty steady increase as our IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, formerly known as BILL, as those programs have ramped up. Again, in 2019, we issued 88 grants. 2022 was the first year we had AIG introduced. So we jumped up to 111 grants, and we've steadily increased since then. This year, we are on track to issue 174 grants, again, totaling that $450 million. So I just wanted to point this out to say that, obviously the number of grants we're issuing has dramatically increased. However, our staffing has not. I think since 2019, we've gained a net of 2 people across the office. So again, we are handling a lot more grants, excuse me, than we ever have. And I bring this up to say too that, for us in our office, for Rebecca and Luis and Cameron, we're not measured by how many grants we issued, but our measurements and metrics from headquarters in the region come from how fast we're spending the money once they're issued and how fast we're closing the grants. So as you can see with the volume increase, there's a lot of moving parts out there, a lot of things to keep track of. So please, continue to work with the Wyoming team to keep those projects on task and schedule and budget, and keep those moving forward. And then just moving into the IIJA, again, formerly the BILL program, we kind of retermed it. Just some updates going on in that program. So firstly, for the airport infrastructure grants, we are in our fourth year of AIG. So with that, any unobligated 2022 funds are expiring at the end of this year. I just want to say kudos to you guys working with both us and WYDOT to get projects identified, get things under grant. As an office as a whole, I think we're losing about $160,000 out of millions and millions that we got in AIG funds from the 2022 year. So, and again, that's pretty much due to projects closing and minor recoveries that we couldn't re-grant. So, just again, big kudos to everyone out there to keep those projects going and getting them identified. So with that, as a nation, again, with any expiring funds, they're going to be swept into a competitive pot for 2026. So we're still waiting to see where that lands for the year as a nation. The first $100 million of those expiring funds that are swept are going to go into the Federal Contract Tower program. And then any remaining funds are going into a new program called the AIG Funding Reallocation Program, or AFR for short. We're still working on the final details of that program, the criteria and everything that's needed to compete in that program. And so you'll be hearing more on that shortly. And then the other two programs we still have ongoing, the airport terminal program, fiscal year 26 is going to be our last year for that program. We're hoping to have the notice of funding opportunity, the NOFO, out in late July for airports to apply for that money. And again, that will be the last year for that program. The Federal Contract Tower program, again, we're hoping to have the NOFO out in early July. For that, that program will continue on, again, because of the expiring AIG funds that will be swept and that first 100 million each year that goes into that program. So the Federal Contract Tower program will continue on through fiscal year 2029 with up to $100 million available each year. All right, so that's kind of current program status. Next piece I wanted to touch on with y'all is the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2024. Again, when Rebecca was at the WAC back in September, I know there wasn't much we could talk about at that point. We were still working through all the changes and what it means for us in our programs. Since then, we've got a lot of that squared away. So just a quick recap on the authorization. Reauthorize the FAA through fiscal year 2028. There were multiple changes to our authorities, obligations, and programs, and also how we interact with certain functions at DOT and other government agencies. We have finally produced all of our program guidance letters from the reauthorization. We call them RPIGLs. Have the website here. And I should mention, Kyle, I'll send you this PowerPoint afterwards if you want to send this out to everybody. So, but if you go to this link here, you'll be able to access all of those RPIGLs, which contain our policy as it relates to the updates in the reauthorization. And so with that, kind of next steps for us is incorporating these program guidance letters and working to update our AIP handbook, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. So we'll be working on that over the next year, and hopefully next May-ish timeframe, we should have that out in draft for viewing and comment. So I'm not going to touch on a lot from the reauthorization, but just wanted to, I think there's a lot of curiosity about the impacts to funding and what that looks like for us. So with the reauthorization, it increased our funding authority to $4 billion, up from $3.5 billion. Again, that still has to have congressional appropriation every year. So Congress still needs to appropriate the $4 billion. They can always choose to appropriate less. For this year in fiscal year 25, Congress did appropriate the full $4 billion to our program. And so some of the other pieces that changed or didn't, for the most part for general aviation airports, non-primary entitlements remain the same. The only exception is the commercial service airports, which are those airports having between 2,500 and 10,000 enplanements. Those are now on a sliding scale. And so it's a dollar per passenger that gets applied to that, and that's how the entitlements are calculated. And that goes up to $1.3 million for those commercial service airports. Also, the primary airports, their entitlement minimum increased from 1 million to 1.3 million. So again, for those airports serving 10,000 passengers or more, you get a minimum of 1.3 million. Similar to commercial service, there's a dollar per passenger calculation. So once you hit a certain threshold, you do get more than the $1.3 million. And then lastly, on the funding piece, state apportionment increased from 20 to 25%. And this is calculated based off the total AIP available for grants minus total GA entitlements. So it's a formula-driven piece that's not necessarily a dollar for dollar if you look at the 20 to 25% increase. So we did get a good increase in state apportionment this year, which again is available to general aviation airports to help with larger projects that entitlements can't fully cover. And then lastly, one of the other big things is the federal share increased to 95% for non-hub airports for fiscal years 25 and 26 only. All right. And that's really all I kind of had on reauthorization. Again, there's a ton of provisions in there. I think there was 95 provisions total that affected AIP in our program. So there's a lot more in those RPGs if you're interested in it. And then lastly, just want to cover a couple other topics of just kind of some trending things that we're still noticing in our ADO, trying to get ahead of them before they become issues. And I feel like we do hammer this one home quite a bit, but thought it was important to do again. Non-aeronautical events. We did have a Federal Register published May of 2023. And with that, it kind of outlaid a more defined process to coordinate non-aeronautical events on your airport. And these events can include a 5K run, a car show. It can even include, and I have the note a little bit farther down, events in conjunction with aeronautical events like an air show. So with non-aeronautical events, you do have to develop a plan, and the criteria are laid out within that Federal Register and submit it to our office, to our EDO. Again, you can submit it to your project manager or to Kevin Keith, our compliance specialist. We recommend you do that about 90 to 100 days in advance of the event. And that gives us time to do the application review. We have to submit a 7460 and go through the airspace process to get comments from other lines of business. And then there is kind of a newer requirement with this now, is there is a environmental determination requirement. Again, this could be pretty simple, either something we just do in our office or a very simple CADX, but we do need time to make that determination. And again, like I mentioned, all non-aeronautical events have to be coordinated and receive approval from the FAA, and that is through our office. And again, like I mentioned, we may still have an action even if it's in conjunction with an aeronautical event. So if you're hosting anything that is non-aeronautical, please just reach out to us so we can get that coordination done and get your event approved and get you guys going forward with it. And then the last thing I want to touch on, and knock on wood, this hasn't been as big an issue in Wyoming yet, but we're starting to see an uptick in our other two states, in Colorado and Utah, is compatible land use around airports. Again, compatible land use is laid out in Grant Assurance 21 in the grant agreements you all accept to make the land around the airport as compatible with aircraft operations as you can. And we do have an advisory circular out, 5190-4B, that talks about airport land use compatibility planning. And it lays out a lot of the considerations to give when planning land use around your airport. And so I know a lot of folks already, cities and counties, have some zoning around the airport, but some of the questions that I just wanted to bring you all to ask yourselves as you're having these discussions with your city and county leadership. Oops, I'll just move to the next slide here. Obviously we do look at land use compatibility while we're doing master plans, but those are only done once every 10, 12 years. And again, we're starting to see an uptick in between those times of incompatible land use starting to encroach on the airport. So some of the questions that should be asked is, what is the current zoning around your airport? Is it agricultural, industrial, commercial, residential? What does that look like? How far away is it? What's the proximity to your airport for those types of zoning? And one really important one we're running across is, how are those zoning types defined? For example, we ran into an issue where the city had zoned mixed use development close to the airport off the end of the runway. And they had a developer coming in wanting to use or do a residential and commercial, like a commercial development on the bottom, residential apartments on top. And by that city's definition, that was allowable, whereas others may define mixed use as more of a light industrial slash commercial use, which is definitely more compatible with residential off the end of the runway. So, I think that's an important conversation to have is not just what is your zoning, but how do you define your zoning types, to make sure that they fall in line and are compatible. And then the other piece that kind of goes along with that, like I just said, with the residential versus commercial, is understanding the population densities that are attached to each zoning type, again, to make sure it's compatible. And so I just brought along a really simple graphic, to show you all, again, very generic one runway airport type of thing. Um, of as you're having those discussions again with your city and county leadership about compatible land use, are there graphics like this that you can help overlay over land use in your zoning, to look at those critical areas of approach and departures or traffic patterns, to make sure that your zoning is compatible with it. So I won't belabor it. Again, like I said, hopefully land use compatibility has not been as big an issue in Wyoming, but we are seeing an uptick in our other states. So anything you all can do to help your cities and counties to get out ahead of that, and before it becomes a big issue, would be great. So with that, Kyle, that's really all I had. Again, just kind of wanted to, like Kyle said, introduce myself, touch on a couple of the high topic issues that we have going on in our ADO. And as always, feel free to reach out to any of the Wyoming team or myself, and happy to help any way we can.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Always good information. And again, we appreciate the support that you provide our coalition and our members. We did have a question come through. This is from Trent Holder. He asked, does the FAA have any rough forecasted idea of how much funding will go into the competitive pot that you had referenced?
We don't at this point. We're still, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have much better ideas. We're winding down our programs for this year. It, I would say at the most, probably for the AFR program, I'd say at most it'd probably be 150 to 200 million, but that's a super rough guess right now. Don't hold me to it. We are seeing airports across the country starting to use up those funds more and more. So.
Very good. Well, we'll just maybe stay for a few more seconds to see if any other specific questions come through from our attendees as they relate specifically to the FAA or for Mr. Lyman. But as we do so, again, I very much appreciate the participants that we have on today. I hope you find value in participating first in the coalition, but also in these Lunch and Learn series. Really grateful for our presenters. And it's just a nice way to show that this coalition brings strength and value to each of us, and it's good to have a team together. With that said, it doesn't look like any other questions are coming through. And so, Jesse, again, thank you so much. And we'll transition now to our next presenter, who is Sean Burke, the new administrator for WYDOT Aeronautics.
All right. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Jesse.
Hey, Kyle.
Welcome, Sean, and thank you again. And I'll just go backstage, but we're so grateful to have you on, and again, appreciate your support.
Yeah, no, thank you, Kyle, and thank you to the Wyoming Airports Coalition for the invite to do this, and definitely a cool little series that we put together here. An interesting kind of approach to getting educated and kind of some free time. So it's a cool little concept. Yeah, just to I guess reintroduce myself. So I know there's probably a number of you on the webinar that know me, and a number that are being reintroduced or introduced to me. So my name's Sean, and I took over the aeronautics administrator's position here late May, and as Brian Olson stepped up to the assistant chief engineer of engineering and planning. So congratulations to Brian. Great promotion for him, and certainly still happens. Very happy to have him here at WYDOT still as a resource, but certainly some big shoes for me to fill. I know Brian did a lot of work for for airports around the state and nationally, even for the small community airports with Maseo. So excited to be back for sure. It's a terrific organization, and it's absolutely elated to be back and working with Wyoming airports. So my background's been in commercial service. I have no slides, so I'll just kind of talk through this a little bit. My background has been in commercial service pretty much the entirety of my career, so I appreciate everyone's patience as we get kind of schooled up on the AIP side and flight operations and engineering and construction as some of the programs that we oversee here at WYDOT Aeronautics. But we have a great staff, fortunately, at the same time. So AJ Schutzman is back, so please don't hesitate to pester him, as I think we all got his out of office reminders. So very happy that AJ's back here, and welcome to Cassie as our planning specialist as well. So and Phil Hearn, shout out to Phil in the construction and engineering side and his team as well. So absolutely incredible staff here as well that I had the pleasure of working with for 7 years and get to continue to work with. So ever since I stepped aside about 4 years ago, I went to Denver International Airport and I was kind of maybe talk through some of the lessons I learned from Denver, and then later in the consulting world of kind of what it means for just to air service development of kind of telling the story a little bit differently is after the capacity purchase agreement 2018 2019, going to one of the largest airports in the world was an incredible step up, and it was an incredible opportunity to really learn how the other side of the air service development world thinks a little bit, because unfortunately Wyoming's so small. It's where we're constantly kind of thinking in the subsidy mindset of in order to get airlines to come here, we need to offer up some sort of financial incentive, and very healthy incentives to do so. And it's been in this kind of perpetual arms race of trying to get bigger aircraft, allocate aircraft resources for us, because you're competing against small communities. And after seeing it from the side of Denver, it's a fair bit different. There's a fair bit more demand, and operating as a hub is a little bit differently, to the point where we could just go to an airline, so like Southwest, and we just went down the top unserved markets, and within 6 months they launched 6 markets just that we talked about over a half an hour conversation. So it wasn't as typically as engaging as it is on the small community side, but you did see it on the small communities that would continually ask for SCASD support applications on behalf of Denver to write those that they do want Denver air service. So we wrote about I think 3 to 4 support letters every year for SCASD applications, because on the small side it was so competitive, and it continues to be so competitive. And stepping into the consulting role with InterVistas for the last just short of 2 years, it gave me an understanding of just how competitive small community air service is, and how far ahead Wyoming really was and is in the small community air service development kind of space, because a lot of airports like Grand Forks, North Dakota is one that we had kind of worked with of getting a small community air service development SCASD application in. And they got it, and look, what happens is they're still asking for the commercial air service, versus Wyoming. We had a developed relationship for the past 12 to 14 years with SkyWest and United, that we were able to maintain that market and continue to build up those markets. So we're in a lot better position than some of the other small communities out there that are asking for SkyWest or United or Denver service. That being said, it's not all sunshine and lollipops. The funding situation for the commercial air service programs is limited. So we'll be going into this session at making an exception request for additional money, and a lot of that's going to rely on the community support and uplifting kind of from the communities themselves, rather than having WYDOT driving it. So a lot of that's going to fall to the commercial airports and people that understand the importance of that commercial air service brings to their communities. So not to belabor the point on commercial air service, there's so many other things that we do at WYDOT Aeronautics on the WASP. So the WASP season is starting up here, and AJ and his staff will be reaching out and setting up meetings if they haven't already. Here starting in July. So excited for the first round of my WASP kind of integration. And construction season is underway, so we very much would appreciate any constant communication from the airports as projects come up, issues come up. Please notify us as soon as you know, so that we're kind of kept in the loop as well. It just closes a loop for communication loop for us, so we're able to react quicker and better on it. Any airports that are doing fly-ins this summer, let us know, let me or AJ know so that we can add that to our events calendar. We're hoping to get around to a couple more fly-ins. I know AJ's out there hitting a lot of fly-ins. I'll be out as well, trying to make as many fly-ins as possible. So it's great to get out there and see some of the GA airports as well as the commercial service airports. So look forward to seeing you all out there. Any data requests on the air service side? So please, if you're a commercial service airport and you want to know on-time performance, which I know has been an issue, or schedule changes, or what your USDOT O&D data is, please don't hesitate to ask myself or Mariah Johnson to have a look at some of that data. I know a lot of you are engaged with a consultant, but if you just want to take a look at something, hey, what are my top markets? Hey, what was my segment data back, or load factor back 10 years ago? We can certainly look that up for you. Last thing was, so we are kind of reconfiguring our website a little bit. Cassie's kind of spearheaded that. And this is, we want to be as I guess we want to be as clear as we can in what is public facing from us and what the airports might find useful. I know Black Hats is probably where you spend most of your time, but anything else that you might need or want from our website that you're continually asked for, or that you continuously need, don't hesitate to kind of reach out and say, hey, this would be great if this was on here, or hey, this would be great if this was updated regularly on our website. So still definitely new to the role. So I'm about 3.5 weeks in here, but absolutely loving it, and great to be back here for sure. So learning a lot, and thank you, Jesse. That was actually informative for me as well. So as I kind of spool up here a little bit. So and thanks again to the Wyoming Airports Coalition. I mean, it's you guys carry so much water in the state of improving our airports, and we're just so glad that we're here working hand in hand with you. So, Kyle, I think that's all I got, unless there's any questions.
Well, Sean, thank you, and thank you again for your support. It's so nice to have you back in the state, to have your leadership, and both you and Jesse are very committed to Wyoming, and we appreciate it. I haven't seen any questions come through from the Q&A application, but our participants, please know that if you have questions, we'd be very happy to field those at this time. And again, appreciate your participation in this Lunch and Learn series in our newest installment. Perhaps as we wait a few minutes to see if any questions do come in, I think this is an opportunity for me to plug the fall conference. For those of you who have attended our fall conferences, I hope you found value in those, particularly from the standpoint of networking with your peers and industry professionals, but also from the education sessions that we have. We'll have another great opportunity this fall in Jackson to get together and to improve ourselves individually, to improve our communities, and also to work for the betterment of the industry that we all work within and also represent. Jackson's going to be a great community to host us. And just to ensure I get the dates right, I'm going to check a note. The conference is October 14th through the 17th. So put it on your calendar if you haven't already. Opportunity to get your hotels is already open, and I would refer you to the Wyoming Airports Coalition website for any information that you may need. or questions you may have as it relates to our upcoming conference. But please join us. Please be part of our coalition. And I know for me personally, I gain a lot of value from all the members that attend. And I've always felt that my penny gets a little bit brighter every time I'm around you guys. So thank you for all that you guys do. And it looks like we do have a comment that just came through. Jordan says, everyone in Jackson says, thank you both for all you do for Wyoming airports. So Jesse and Sean, just know across the state, all of our airports appreciate what you do. And thank you, Jordan, for sharing that, because I'm sure there are others that feel the exact same way.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for all that you do. So.
Well, without any other questions coming through or comments, I think we can conclude this installment of the Lunch and Learn. What a great session. And it's so nice to get faces to the names if you haven't had opportunity to meet them yet or work with Sean or Jesse in the past. But as I mentioned at the start, they have been invested in our network of airports for a very long time. And I'm just so pleased that they're in the positions they are now, and look forward to our continued cooperation and partnership. So thank you both for being our presenters today, and thank you to our participants for being online. Well, and I should actually say, I got to give a shout out to Casper Natrona International Airport, because I'm sitting at their airport right now utilizing their Wi-Fi to participate in this. So what a great way to show teamwork, and thank you, Glenn and team, for allowing me to utilize your Wi-Fi and launch this webinar. So, all right, everyone. Jesse, Sean, thank you again.
Great.
Thank you,
And
Kyle.
we'll catch everyone at our next installment. So just stay tuned. And again, go to our website and get registered for the fall conference. Thanks, everyone.